Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. And this is the show that's trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. I'm in private practice normally, although at the current moment, I'm not sure. And I see about, probably 50%, maybe a little more, of my client base is in ADHD. I do a lot of evaluations, and I coach ADHD executives and do a lot of evaluations. And I'm also the father of an ADHD child. I'm sorry, he's an ADHD adult now. He's out there in the world. Still having some issues, but doing okay. I want to talk today about a little bit about adapting and adjusting to ADHD. Now, I do a lot of adults who've never been diagnosed, although they definitely should have been. And I do a lot of people who were diagnosed at one time, but went off medications for whatever reason, and now a decade later or whatever, they're trying to get back on. And I also, I'm a member of several different groups on the internet that deal with ADHD in a lot of different ways. And I am constantly struck by, especially it seems like on Facebook, how much people are beating themselves up about their ADHD. It's of course sort of alarming, because an impulsive person who's feeling really depressed is not a good combination. And I guess the thing I think is that so much of it is just totally unnecessary. Okay, if you grew up with ADHD and it was never diagnosed, that is a horrible situation to put your kids in. I mean, I know there's a lot of concern about, oh God, I don't want to put him on medication. But on medication for the rest of his life. Won't he be addicted? Won't she become a junkie? Isn't it a gateway drug? It's not a gateway drug, okay? If you've got ADHD, stimulants particularly are the fastest, most effective treatment we've got. Okay, any other medication, there's another group of medications that seem to work for ADHD, but it takes 3 to 6 weeks for them to start working. You take an impatient person, and that's a long time to wait to see if something's going to work for you. The deal though, is there are people with ADHD who are successful in virtually all areas of life. Obviously, the ones that we think of are musicians, actors, athletes, basically entertainers of various types. There's a lot of ADHD in that group. There's also an incredible number of ADHD folks in the entrepreneurial area, and when you think about it, they're made for that. ADHDers make quick decisions, think outside the box, tend to be creatives, tend to have a lot of energy, tend to keep trying, even if they screw up. Perfect for entrepreneurship. But there are also people who are successful at being accountants, being lawyers. If I were going to have to design an occupation that would just drive an ADHDer crazy, I think it would be one of those two. trying to be an accountant drives me crazy. Just don't get it, don't enjoy it. Show me a page full of numbers and my brain will shut off. On the other hand, I can do calculus, so who knows what all that means. But the thing that gets to me when I do a feedback session, that is when I've done an evaluation on an adult, one of these latecomers, who should have been picked up when they were 7 years old or so. When I tell them, yeah, you do have ADHD, you've had it your entire life, you have relatives who have it, I know you do. And I get a lot of different reactions to that. Some people are just plain relieved. Oh, thank God. I don't know what they thought was wrong, but there's a very well-known book about ADHD. The title is, You Mean I'm Not Lazy, Crazy, or Stupid? And I have several copies, but I keep forgetting who the author is, except it's a woman who I think was a nurse. But anyway, that comes from people not sure what exactly is going on because they're not like the other kids. They don't pay attention as well. They have troubles getting started on things. They have troubles finishing things. Everything's a struggle in academics. So you start thinking, because the teacher's always saying, well, she's really smart. If she'd just apply herself. So you start thinking you're lazy. Or, then you start thinking, God, maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm not very bright. On average, ADHDers tend to be a little brighter than average, so it's probably not the issue. And the other, thing, when you're a kid and you're by yourself and you're trying to figure out what's wrong, and you don't have much experience in life, you can convince yourself of a whole bunch of stuff, as I'm sure a lot of you watching right now remember doing. But all you've got is your brain, and your brain is not damaged. It's not like it's a brain damage thing, okay? It's not like, there was some horrible accident when you were born. That's just not the issue. The issue, your brain is different, but it is not damaged, disabled, And in some environments, you do better than a more conventional person, or a neurotypical, as we've started calling them. Those are people who don't have ADHD. The deal, though, the thing that drives ADHDers crazy is being stuck in situations that require compliance, obedience, blindly following the rules, that sort of thing. And that's, basically our education system is largely oriented that way, because after all, their job is to grow a new generation of cubicle sitters for the big companies. Indeed, a lot of the big companies, a lot of careers require compliance, basically. Obedience, compliance, get it done on time, don't dilly-dally, dip, and those are all things that ADHDers are not real good at. So, you got to watch out, and I'm always, a lot of these people, a lot of my patients, the folks that come in when they're in their 30s to be evaluated for ADHD that they've had their entire life, a lot of times it's okay. So you keep getting fired, or you keep failing, having to drop out of courses and dropping out of school. What kind of stuff are you doing? Odds are that they're trying to do some kind of a boring career field because the pay is good. I'm sorry, guys. If you've got ADHD, you can't let that be what decides what you decide to study. You are apt to do what most folks with ADHD do in those situations, and that's not be able, just can't get yourself to do the work, and so you fail or you drop out, one or the other. So you have to have an adapt and adjust sort of mentality. Okay, you're not damaged, you're not retarded, you're not crazy. You don't even necessarily have a learning disability, although some people with ADHD do. But there's nothing about the way your brain works that keeps you from being successful. But you got to find the right spot. Okay? You're probably not going to want to be an accountant. But there are lots of other areas that you could do really well in. But if you think about your brain, like Dodson says, interest-based attention system. If you are interested in it, you can do great things. If you're not interested in it, it's like pulling teeth trying to get you to do something in that area. And I'm not suggesting that you immediately start trying to become a professional video gamer or anything like that, but there are areas that you enjoy doing that translate into vocations, into jobs. Sometimes it's art kinds of things. ADHDers tend to be creatives. Sometimes it's art, sometimes it's music. Some people I know even design jewelry. If you have heard me at all before, my son became a jewelry designer. Don't know why. We're not particularly jewelry people. There's nobody in the family who's ever been a jeweler or a diamond appraiser or any of those things. But anyway, that's what called out to him, and he really likes it. He used to go travel around the country buying and selling gems, and I think that was his favorite thing to do. But and who knows, he may go back to that. But you have to figure out what your interest areas are. You have to figure out what it is you really enjoy doing, and notice if that kind of stuff is easier for you to do. Is it easier for you to pay attention? Is it easier? Do you even sometimes have periods of hyper focus? That is when you're just so into doing whatever it is that you lose track of time and may work all night or that kind of thing. You need to know that. You need to store that away. Okay? If possible, write it down. You don't have to use words, use pictures. I don't care. But keep track of that kind of stuff because it's important for you to know. Because then you can decide what you want to do. How you want to use your interest patterns to set up your career. So, you have to pay attention to that. Okay, this is what I really enjoy doing. This is what I'm really good at. Okay. What kind of training, if any, do you need to do that kind of stuff? May not be much. Maybe just a certification. Maybe an associate's degree. Whatever. But you don't necessarily have to go to a 4-year college and do all the things that tend to turn people off with ADHD off in a standard 4-year school are the recs, the required courses, the ones that they make you take to prove that you're a liberal arts kind of thinker. And a lot of the times those are god-awful boring. Sometimes not so much, but sometimes they really are. And in a lot of career fields, you don't need to be doing that. You don't have to take that stuff. So you need to look at that. You need to be strategic. Okay, one of my favorite words. My book is about strategic parenting. I invite you now to start thinking about your life strategically, in the sense that these are my goals. This is what I want, and what are the paths that I can use to get there. You will find that with the right planning, with the right evaluation, you can do some pretty special things. You can get to where you want to go. One thing I would suggest, and this is just there is a thing called the VIA, the Values in Action. It is a questionnaire. Take you about 20 minutes or so to take it. It's free online. Just Google it, because they keep changing. They keep changing where they've got it, but if you Google it, it was developed at the University of Pennsylvania in their positive psychology program. Basically, you answer about 20 or 30 minutes of questions, and you push the button, and it tells you your 4 or 5 strength areas. It also tells you what your weak areas are, which is very helpful. But you may, and it's very consistent. If you take it 3 times, you'll get the same answers all 3 times, which is a good thing in a test. You don't want it to give you a different answer based on what day of the week it is. Anyway, the VIA, will tell you what your strength areas are. Tell you, that maybe you should be in some kind of an art field. Okay, love of beauty is one of the characteristics or one of the values they measure. And if that's yours, then you're probably going to need to be in some kind of an art or design or even landscaping. I mean, and I don't mean landscaping like mowing the lawn. I mean like designing landscapes, putting bushes here so they, all that stuff. So your yard looks nice. That takes a certain artistic feel. Anyway, so you might consider taking that test. And I suggest that you print out, I think it's 25 total strength areas. I would recommend you print out all 25, because you want to look at the weak ones as well as the strong ones. Okay, and that'll give you some direction if you're missing direction. Okay, that's it for me this week. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, the show designed to make the world safe for ADHDers. Because remember, nobody ever changed the world by thinking inside the box. And ADHDers are confirmed outside the box thinkers. And who knows, they may make the big change in the world that we need. So, my website is terrygingrasphd.com. Feel free to make some comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking about, what your questions you might like answered, that sort of thing. And some interesting things are coming up, because we have had so much time off with this pandemic thing. I've started working on some other projects. Like I'm thinking about setting up a membership group for different folks with ADHD. A membership thing is one of those things where you get special information every month or more frequently, and you pay a very small fee, less than your Starbucks budget probably. So I'll let you know when I pull the trigger on that one. And in the meantime, take care of yourself. Be safe. This pandemic is real, okay? It wasn't developed by Bill Gates or the Chinese. And even if it were, that's not going to be helpful. You've got to follow the rules and figure out that, okay, this pandemic is not over, okay? And hopefully we won't see a big secondary surge, but if enough of us don't follow the rules, we certainly will. So be smart, be safe. Remember, science is the way we know stuff, okay? Science is what gives us the answers to the hard questions. So don't blow it off, okay? All right, catch you next week.